Have you ever helped someone or something and then regretted it for the rest of your life? I did. And even now, when I close my eyes, I still see it, kneeling on the floor of my barn, staring at me with hunger. It was the winter of 1988 down here in southern Colorado. The wind cut like a blade and the snow swallowed everything, even sound. I lived alone, taking care of a few old horses and fixing fences. Solitude was part of the routine, until that night. The storm came fast without a warning. I was putting my tools away when I heard it, something scraping at the barn door, like it was asking to come in. I figured it was a stray dog, maybe a wounded coyote. I grabbed a piece of jerky and my flashlight and went to check. At first, that's all it seemed to be. A small animal, shivering, curled up in the corner, its thin body matted with mud and snow. But when the flashlight touched its face, what I saw doesn't fit in any language I know. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't anything I'd ever seen. But still, I gave it food. And that's why I haven't slept right in over 30 years. Back then I lived in a cabin I inherited from my father, about 6 miles from the nearest town, Alamosa. A simple place made of wood and silence. The nearest road was far enough that truck engines never reached me. My only company were the horses, 4 of them, and the wind that never stopped. After Vietnam, I'd learned to live with little. Watery coffee, stale bread, and routine as medicine for a tired mind. I woke before sunrise, tended to the animals, chopped wood, and spent the rest of the day fixing whatever time decided to break. Sometimes, if I was lucky, the radio caught a Mexican station. That's how I knew the world was still turning. That week had already felt strange. Neighbors said their cattle were restless, and one swore he'd seen something walking on all 4s near the road, bigger than a coyote, too thin to be a bear. I didn't care. Out here, someone's always seeing something. But that night, the air was different. The wind felt heavy, like it was carrying a warning. The sky turned black, and the smell of rain was thick. When the storm hit, I ran to shut the barn doors. That's when I heard it. A faint scratching sound, steady, coming from inside, not outside. I thought some animal had taken shelter before the rain. I opened the door slowly, the flashlight cutting through the hay. The sound stopped. I waited a few seconds, then saw it. Something small, crouched in a corner, breathing fast, its whole body trembling. My first thought was that it was a wounded dog. It was covered in filth, fur tangled, and one of its arms, not legs, arms, looked dislocated. Still, I crouched down and whispered, "It's okay, buddy. Calm down." It lifted its head, slowly, and what looked back at me wasn't an animal. They were human eyes, tired, hollow. Then it spoke, in a voice dry and broken. "Hungry." I should have closed that door, but I didn't. I froze, unsure what to do. That thing trembled so hard it made a buzzing sound. Rain hammered on the roof, and for a moment all I could think about was the cold. Pity, the worst kind of trap. I tossed the piece of jerky onto the hay, about 6 feet away. The creature reached out, an arm too long, too thin, and pulled the food toward itself. It didn't eat right away. It sniffed it first, like it didn't know what to do with it. Then it started chewing, slowly. But the sound was wrong. It was the sound of teeth scraping bone, even though there wasn't any bone there. The flashlight showed just enough to outline its shape. Short legs, bent backward, its chest rose and fell in a strange rhythm. When I said, "Calm down, it's okay," it repeated. The same words, same tone, flat. "It's okay." Hearing my own voice back froze my blood. It wasn't an echo, it was mimicry. I stepped back. The light trembled. It raised its face, and for a moment I saw what was human in it, and what was missing. The skin looked sewn together, stretched too tight to fit. Its eyes reflected the beam like a night animal's. "Hungry," it said again, clearer now. I backed out, closed the barn door, pressed my weight against it. No sound, no movement, just the rain, tricking me into feeling safe. By morning, the hay was scattered, the ceiling hook was swaying, and what was left of the jerky was covered in tiny bite marks, like many mouths had eaten at once. Outside, I found tracks. Not animal, tracks. Footprints. Bare human feet heading toward the creek. 2 sets of them. That day dragged like a funeral. The horses wouldn't go near the creek. They snorted, restless, staring at the trees. When I got close, I smelled it. Metal and wet dirt. A smell that doesn't belong to anything alive. I followed the tracks halfway, then they just stopped, like the ground had swallowed them. The wind hit my face and I felt it. That prickle on the skin that tells you you're being watched, that night, lightning flickered across the sky without thunder. The creek was the only thing making noise. I was about to sleep when I heard it again, something dragging across the porch, the boards creaking under weight. I grabbed my flashlight and rifle, opened the door. Snow shimmered in the moonlight. Nothing moved except the barn, its door slightly open. I went closer, heart pounding. The smell grew stronger. When I pushed the door open, I saw a metal plate, the one I used to feed the dogs. Inside, raw meat, fresh, red. And in the shadows, something moved. The voice came before the shape. For you. I froze. That voice, the same one from the night before, but clearer, practiced. Then the shadow stood up, too tall. Its joints cracked like breaking twigs. The light caught half its face. Human, or almost. The same eyes, but aware now. For you, it repeated, stepping forward, holding the plate in pale hands with fingers too long to be human. I ran, locked the barn, but the sound of claws scratching wood stayed in my head. That's when I understood. It hadn't come for food, it had come to repay. I stumbled back home, heart hammering. Every step, I swore I heard another step, matching mine. When I finally locked the door, I leaned on it, listening. Nothing, just the wind. I told myself it was isolation, cold, guilt, tricks of the mind. I turned on the radio, only static, but I left it playing. Noise feels safer than silence. For a while, I thought it was over, until the horses started kicking. One scream, short, final. I ran to the window. The corral was dark, but I saw shapes. One crouched over a horse, digging. When it looked up, I fell to my knees. The same human eyes, now dripping red. I fired, missed. It didn't run, it just stood there, watching. Then it laughed, a dry, broken sound ending in a cough. You gave food, it said. Now your turn. The words came slow, clumsy, each syllable like a new discovery. Then the laughter spread through the wind. I stayed awake all night, rifle in hand, radio hissing. The laughter came and went, fading until it vanished. You know, sometimes the worst part isn't fear, it's doubt. Wondering if the real mistake was feeding something hungry, or trying to kill what was never human. If you know that kind of fear, the one that stays even when the sun rises, leave a like. That's how I'll know someone else is still awake out there. When silence returned, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. The night dragged on until time stopped meaning anything. I sat with the rifle between my knees, eyes locked on the window, trying not to blink. The wind blew in long breaths, and sometimes I swore I heard footsteps inside it. Around 3, the lantern began to flicker. Every time the flame dimmed, the dark seemed to move closer. Then came the first knock, dull, on the gate. Another, closer. Another, on the roof. The sound circled the house. The horses screamed outside, the clatter of hooves like gunshots, then silence. The kind that comes right before something bad. The next sound came from the kitchen window. A shape pressed against the glass. A head, but the face stretched. Too long, like skin pulled out of shape. 2 deep eyes glowing faintly. Then the voice, calm, almost friendly. Not sleeping, huh? I fired. Glass shattered. Smoke filled the room. When it cleared, something moved on the floor. A pale hand reaching in. I pulled the curtain shut and ran. Now the sounds were everywhere. Steps, scratches, knocks. The radio turned on by itself. Through the static, a voice repeated in a flat tone, "You gave food. Now we share." Over and over. "We share." I shoved a dresser against the door. Wind blew in the smell. Iron, blood, wet earth. And behind the wall I heard it, chewing. Slow, steady. I prayed it was the horse's body. Prayed it wasn't my name it was chewing. Even through the terror, I understood it wasn't hungry for flesh. It was hungry for memory. I stayed, hidden until dawn. When light finally came, the noise was gone. No steps, no whispers, just the heavy silence that follows bad things, the kind that doesn't comfort, only doubts. I opened the door. The floor was covered in marks, not footprints, drag marks like hands had been pulled across the wood. The broken window dripped melted snow, and there, by the door, the same metal plate, now filled with fresh meat. I didn't need to guess what kind. I stumbled outside. The corral was empty. The horses, dead, hollow, like something had drained them from the inside. Snow melted in perfect circles around their bodies. I followed the trail to the creek. The ground was torn up, and in the mud, clean bones stacked neatly, like an offering. On top, a spiral drawn in blood. 2 points. That's when I understood. It wasn't a starving creature, it was something I had invited, something that saw food as a trade, a pact. Since that day, I've never slept right. Even after leaving the farm, the way sound comes back. Around midnight, when the wind hits the roof and the radio hisses, I hear it. A faint scraping, a slow knock, and the voice, soft, imitating mine. For you, funny thing about guilt, it's hungry too. It chews you slowly, night after night. If you know that kind of memory, the kind that never gets old, stay with me. Leave a like, so I know someone's still listening. Because deep down, I think that's what it wants too. To be heard, to be remembered. It's been 37 years and I still wake up at 3:20 every morning. Not by choice, like something's calling. Always the same faint sound, nails on glass, the same feeling of eyes in the dark. After that night, I left Colorado and never went back. Sold the farm for almost nothing and moved to the city. Light, noise, people everywhere. But when you've met what lives out there, you learn distance isn't enough. Sometimes I still dream of the barn. The door half open, the plate on the floor. And that voice, calm, repeating my own words. For you, maybe the mistake wasn't feeding it. Maybe it was feeling pity. Evil understands mercy. It smells it and comes back for more. Now I just pray that when sleep finally comes, it doesn't find me dreaming, hungry. If you've listened this far, leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you'll help me keep talking and maybe stay awake one more night.